Characters are the most captivating aspect of any animation. There's just something about them that really pulls the audience into the experience and makes them interested in the world they're seeing. The good news is that animating your own characters can be just as fun as watching others. Hey guys, it's Sebastian here from the Noble Frugal Studio, and today I'm going to introduce you to the basics of character animation. Be sure to leave me a like and let's get started. You can lift it with the click of a switch. It automatically stands and more than happy to sit. It's more than just advanced, it's a chance for your aches and cramps to take a rain check. Branch is my main desk. Branch is the name of the brand. Their desk, it stands, no hesitation. It raises and lands by decree. It's great, it remembers elevation for different occasions. It says you can stand up and see. Executive size, this is the center of business, while the stain resistance echoes in several different styles. No accidents, in fact, it features a beveled edge to temper an impact. Mechanisms relax when action in shafts, it lifts and sits back. Spectacular system. Check the description for the link. It's a quick quiz to get your studio space ready for you to create. So what is a character? Basically, a character is a depiction of a person. You can think of animated characters just like puppets, but instead of moving them around with our hands, we draw them on the canvas. How do we make a character? Simple. All we have to do is take a shape or a form and personify it. To personify something means to add human characteristics to it. We can do this through a subject's form, movement, speech, etc. For example, you could take a non-human form like a trapezoid, give it legs, which is a human characteristic, and boom, you have a character. Characters can potentially be anything. They could be a cube, an apple, or a nebula. As long as it has a personality, it's a character. When designing for animation specifically, there are a few key objectives that determine a successful character in my mind. A great character has several human-like appendages to convey a range of emotions. For example, they'll have eyes, a mouth, hands, and feet. Also, an appealing design that is simple enough to draw over and over again. These objectives are relative, of course, because some styles may be more detailed than others, while still accomplishing a successful character design. Whatever your objective is, whether it be making simple characters to speed up the animation process, or more detailed characters that can convey a larger range of emotions, design your character with that goal in mind. With all of that out of the way, how do we tell stories by using the motion of our characters? In 2D animation, we typically break down stories or sequences into 3 types of drawings called core drawings. The first is keyframes. Keyframes are drawings that tell the essential story of an animated sequence. Next are extremes. Extremes are drawings that further break down the mechanics of emotion. These are not essential to the story. And finally, we have breakdowns. Breakdowns just describe the transition between each extreme. These 3 types of drawings tell the complete story of any given motion. After this, in-betweens are added to make the sequence easier to watch and more appealing to the eye. Why don't we go ahead and try this out in a real-world animation example? Let's go. First, we start off with the story. So for demonstration, I just wrote up a short script for us to animate today. A wagon loses control and crashes into the tree where Pi is sleeping. Pi wakes up startled. Let's draft some keyframes to tell the essential story of this script. So as you can see here, I've already warmed up my drawing. I just did some parallel lines, circles, cubes, cylinders, some perspective stuff, of course gesture, very important for character animators, and some composition practice, thinking about the scene we're drawing today. I have the whole practice routine organized in the video. You can find that in the card. Alright, I'm gonna make a new level. Go ahead and select my Sketch 1 brush. I'm gonna start off with my brush really big. That helps me establish essential shapes at first. Also, it's worth mentioning that I did a quick sketch of Pi's updated character design so I can reference this while working. It's very helpful to have a character sheet of your character with you when animating. If you guys want to see a video on that, let me know. So my goal is to only draw story relevant movements in these keyframes. Any minor details such as, say, his ears flapping or something else can all be added later on. I like to think to myself when I'm drawing keyframes, what poses are essential for the viewer to understand what's happening on screen? And then also, what poses can I do without? Right here we have Pi waking up because he's shocked. He looks forward, then he looks to the side. Nothing too story rich here, just a few movements. But with just these drawings, the viewer can tell what is happening in the scene. The key is to get your story down with as few poses as possible. It's kind of like playing charades if you think about it. Okay, now that our story is all set, we can ground the animation in the physical universe by setting its extremities. Basically, we're making the extremes. For this example, we're going to add some anticipation and overshoot, as well as some squash and stretch to make the animation look more natural. Both anticipation and squash and stretch are principles of mechanics or motion physics, so it's appropriate that we add them in the extremes phase. I like to start with my brush pretty big so I can get an idea of what I'm doing before I actually commit to any drawing. Make his head squash a little bit in this one. I want to squash like this. So I'll leave this surprised frame without an overshoot. Usually I would, really push it and make the overshoot frame where his head's really surprised like that, something like that. But I'll leave it because I'm going to treat this kind of like a standard take. And we'll go over what takes are in a separate video. We can get some nice overshoot from this head turn right here. So I'm going to make a frame after 4. And right before, to get some anticipation for this head turn, right before he whips his head around, he's just going to move it slightly more to the right. Kind of like a wind up. Very typical of character animation. Put his eyebrows down. Typically when we turn our heads, we close our eyes to protect them from the air passing. So his eyebrow can start to go down during that wind up. Alright, this slight look to the left will anticipate this frame right here. So right before frame number 6, let's draw in. And I'm just going to focus on the head for now because really the body's not really making any significant motions. Overshoot this next frame. So his head's going to be somewhat over here. Yeah, I like to start drawing big because it helps me focus on the shape of what I'm drawing rather than the small details early on. Actually we can push this somewhat forward a little bit too. Can exaggerate this eye position right here. Don't want to do it too much. We want it to sort of look snappy. That's already looking pretty good. So notice in this extreme, the head is actually leading, so shoulders are going to go with it a little bit. The shoulders are going to come with the head. His legs are going to stay put, and his forearm is actually planted on the ground right there by the hand, so his hand's going to stay put as well. So only this upper region, his shoulders, some of his torso are going to follow along, but everything else is going to stay put. Okay, these extremes look pretty good. Now, to transition from extreme to extreme, we use breakdowns. In the breakdowns is where we can introduce more minute mechanical details, such as which body part is leading which motion. We did a little bit of that in the extremes, but this is where we really get the mechanical work done. Because breakdowns describe the transition from extreme to extreme or extreme to key, you may also hear them referred to as passing positions or midpoints. They aren't always in the middle, but they are a transitional extreme designed to break down the motion further. One breakdown in particular is from here to here I'm looking at. So let's make a new frame in the middle. He's just going to get a little bit deeper into his seat here. You know what? I actually forgot one of the extremes. I forgot an overshoot because I want when he gets to this frame where he's sat up to wait a little bit before he turns his head. I'm gonna insert an overshoot right here. A little bit of stretch. Alright, so we have a key, extreme, key, breakdown, extreme, key, extreme, extreme, key. So we need a breakdown in between these two extremes for our typical head turn. Usually a typical head turn, you dip the head down, add a little bit of squash and stretch so the head's going to be a little bit wider. Just dip down. The middle probably, put somewhere right here. Make sure we're following that arc with the eyes. This looks about done. So last overview, keyframe, extreme, keyframe, breakdown, extreme, keyframe, extreme, breakdown, extreme, keyframe. All right, so here we have all of the core drawings of this animation finished. So now let's space them out on the timeline according to what looks natural. In OpenToonz, I'm just gonna start out by selecting all of these. Right click, reframe, and put them on 4s so I can watch how the animation looks so far. Even that's not bad timing. One thing I want to change is have this last a little longer right here, frame 6. Now, essentially, the animation is complete at this point. If you have a tight budget or you're just going for a minimalistic look, you can feel free to stop here. Otherwise, now is the time to add in-between frames to make the motion easier to follow and more appealing to the eye. In-betweens are somewhat of a separate art form than core drawing. So if you want to learn more about timing charts and in-betweens, check out my video on timing and spacing. That's all from me, guys. Now you know the basics of how to approach character animation. Special thanks to Branch Furniture for sending over their standing desk, and thank you all for watching. Shout out to OwenArt on Patreon for supporting this channel for almost 3 years now. Thank you so much. Peace.